actually the most interesting thing that I saw come out of the event, and interesting because we're going to actually turn this into a topic, was the Boss guitar.
Yeah. Can I tell you what the Boss guitar name is?
What is it?
So it's the Euros. Which is like a euro, right?
Or
and I thought it had something to do. Yeah. Well, Euros actually
EUROS. I know.
Yep. It actually, yeah, like euro, like money, right?
Yeah.
And I thought, it's like a euro. No, it's actually named after the Greek word for the god of southeast wind. And I want this to be a great segue into. I'm reminded of South Park. And I'm instead going to go with a southeast fart, because this has got to be the least interesting, and probably to me. I mean, and now, folks, now don't get us wrong. There are only 2 of these guitars that exist. Okay, neither of us is going to play one anytime soon.
Right now,
but I guess one in North America and one in Europe, and it's already announced. It's already on. You can order it from Sweetwater. $2,200 for the, and I wrote this down. I want people to know the fart from Japan. Okay. So, and I got my little smiley face here so everybody can know I did the LOL thing. But that's my shitty handwriting there. What I have to
you didn't make it out of you didn't make it out of cut up letters from a magazine?
I know I didn't.
No chain letter, huh?
Right. But what I don't get, this is the thing I don't get, okay, is, so they come up with this guitar, and they had a perfect opportunity to upstage the Line 6 Variax and improve upon the Boss Roland guitar from the past. And what did they do?
They made this thing, which is, I want to talk about let us talk about its features.
Let's talk about that foot pedal. Actually doesn't come with it. You have to buy it separately.
We're gonna go there. We're gonna talk about it. We're also gonna compare it to the elephant in the room that it's mimicking. And so the Boss guitar, like, Boss has a history of making instruments. This is not the first time. There was the Roland synth guitars in the 80s, and then which some of those are highly sought after. And there's a GR7. And then, of course, they did the Roland Ready Strats, which were, basically MIDI pickups in a Stratocaster. And then most recently, when they lost their deal with Fender, they went to Strandberg and they did the GR7 Strandberg, or not GR7, but the GK divided pickup Strandberg, which is actually a pretty cool concept for them and sort of fits their motif and aesthetic.
Yes.
And then they come out with this thing. So let me describe it to you. Yeah. It's jet black. Okay. Yep. It is flat black, matte, right? And it is, it's got a maple neck, rosewood board. I'm assuming it's rosewood, rosewood board. And I'm doing this from memory, by the way, because it's a super bass guitar. It has dots, I think, for inlays.
Dotted lays.
Does it have locking tuners?
Super basic fretboard. Let me take a look. I think the tuners are locking.
I don't think they're locking, but they might be. It has a Godot 510 on it. So it's kind of Sur-esque in that regard. It has, I believe, a plastic nut. So it's probably not plastic. It's probably Graphtec or some Graphtec-alike material.
Sorry, by the way, it was Euros, not Euro.
Oh, I thought it was Euros.
And yes, those are locking tuners.
Okay.
At least what I can see.
All right. So it's got locking tuners on it. Big deal, right? Like at $2,200, it's damn well better. It's basically a $2,200 Strat, dual humbucker, with 4 knobs. And
for $2,200, they couldn't come up with a recharging system. You have to use 4 AA batteries. Are you serious?
Do you know what?
If you couldn't meet that price point, this is not the guitar you should have released. This is the Firebird X.
Did you? Well, we're going there.
I'm saying it here.
We're going there. Just wait. Our listeners, please listen. Just hang on for a second, because I want to talk more about the Euros before we get there. So the interesting thing is there's no divided pickup in this. So there's no 13 pin. There's no 13 pin MIDI out. There's
Nope.
no DIN plug for MIDI, which is what
Nope.
you normally get, right? Like, was it like 9-pin, I think. There's not even an aux jack for MIDI. So this thing can't speak MIDI. So when you play it, it's basically just doing its polyphonic magic, which Boss probably does have the leading polyphonic tracking technology right now. If you're familiar with the SY series products, they are stellar. The Boss OC5, which is their octave pedal that uses the same technology, has been out of stock since it came out last year. And so that's the preface to it, right? So like basically what this guitar is a guitar, a mediocre guitar. Call it what it is.
Yeah,
it's not even baked maple.
At best.
What did they mention what wood it's made out of? Search for it and then let me know when I'm done.
I'm on it.
So no big maple, nothing. And then this guitar is basically like this like turd of a guitar. It looks like it looks cheap. It looks super cheap.
Alder body.
Okay, at least it's alder.
Neck,
at least
rosewood
it's alder.
Fretboard. Real bone nut. Remember your $2,200.
I thought it was a Graphtec nut.
It says real bone nut.
Maybe I'm thinking about another picture I saw today. Anyway, it is basically that a cheap guitar with an SY synthesizer in it. Okay.
Here's what I have a problem with. Okay, you go ahead because I need to.
I mean, that's what it is. It's an SY synthesizer, and then it has an attachment that you can buy separately. I don't know what it costs, but it's Boss. So it's probably $200 that allows you to connect up to it and control various parameters on the guitar.
I don't know if the pedal is listed yet because usually they are very good at for Sweetwater. They're very good at connecting your like. Here's the stuff you might want with this,
right?
And that pedal's not connected. I'm not saying it's not there, but here's the thing I have a problem with. Let me go through a couple of things that should be great. Okay, but I want to preface this with 4 AA batteries that supposedly give you 9 hours of operation. Oh, it does have an optional power adapter sold separately. Don't ask me how the power gets to it and why you would want to run voltage to your guitar, but let's talk a little bit. It has a Gs1 editor for iOS and Android devices. So you have USB and Bluetooth connectivity to upload your synth sounds. Okay? That's a good thing. Okay? But you're telling me that you have to have a power adapter or 4 AA batteries? You couldn't come up with a recharging system if you have a power adapter? Seriously? I'm a little bit maybe the power adapter so you can recharge a recharging system. I don't know. And independent outputs for guitar and synth. This is where it bugs me. This goes right back to what you were talking about. So no MIDI. Really? So I can't control the switching so that when I'm on stage, I can switch MIDI wise this thing. I mean, I understand because you could probably control a Bluetooth device that could switch your guitar for you. Maybe is that capable?
No, they just decided that guitarists don't need MIDI. We don't use MIDI, and so screw it.
Maybe.
So here's where I want to get really granular with this and talk about stupid stuff. So it uses 4 AA batteries. Gee, what else uses 4 AA batteries? The SY1, the SY 500? Yeah.
Yep.
Why would you? I mean, it's pretty clear what this is. If you're not paying attention to what I've been saying, this is an SY 500 loaded guitar with an effects pedal in it. And it's not an effects pedal, it's a synth pedal. And because of that, it doesn't do MIDI in and out. It doesn't benefit from the tracking of having a 13-pin because everyone who has a 13-pin says that the SY1000 is awesome because it tracks even better than the SY500. So if you've never done, let me back up. If you've never experienced synthesizer guitar, understand that there's various levels of tracking, and what that means is that when you pick a note, how fast it picks up on what that note is and then generates the sound. So there can be little bits of latency and there can be lots of latency. And so that's basically what that is. So when we talk about tracking, that's what we're talking about.
Right. And if you're talking about somebody who wants to use synth sounds for guitar, you're going to talk about those people that do the two-handed tapping and the the really intricate, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not putting any of that music down. I love that music. But I'm just saying that that's probably more, it's not targeted towards, it's not tractor. It is towards that person that's like creating soundscapes by touching their fingerboards lightly in different places.
People are going to hate what I'm about to say. But I don't think there's a market for this at all. And I don't think there's been a market for synth guitars. It's a product that exists that keeps getting pushed out to the masses. Like there's this giant group of people just like, give it to me. And there's really a very small group of people that are interested in this stuff, which is why there's not more products. That's why Boss Roland is basically the only company that does it. There are a couple other minor companies that have messed around with this stuff before, but it's mostly Boss Roland.
Right. And so it comes down to this. Is this something that people want? I don't think so.
They didn't want it 7 years ago.
Again, I get to, it's possible. This is why I mentioned those people that do this. The tracking. It's got to track how many notes at a time in how many positions across the fretboard. And I just don't know if we're going to have, especially when it comes to the fact that it's got to be very precise. And this guitar, no offense to people who love guitar, because we all do, but I would think that would be like a fan fret Strandberg type.
Which they had.
Because, yeah.
Now, I don't know if they're killing that. The Roland Strandberg collab. I don't know if that's going away. And I would suspect it's not, because they still need something with a 13-pin pickup on it to be able to plug the SY1000. And if that deal doesn't work out with them, maybe we'll see another one of these things at Summer NAMM with, expanded feature set, divided pickup, and that's waiting in the wings, and that this is kind of them dipping their toe in the water. Interesting to note, though, Jim, before we go any further, this is not a Waza product.
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, so what I was about to say is to me, this is really like the first Line 6 Variax. I mean, this is like
it's
one
actually,
of the early ones.
I would say,
and not even,
does it do pickup modeling and all that? I haven't even paid attention to that side.
That's just it. It only gives us very, very, like, it does the,
Yeah, because
go ahead.
No,
I was just saying I'm going to check this pedal, see if they have it listed and see how much it is. I found it's the EV1WL pedal.
I just don't.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's $150 because the pedal exists already. Here's the beauty. Okay, the pedal does talk MIDI out a 1/4 inch. But right now, that pedal, should excite you.
What does it do with the MIDI, though? It does not send note on, note off messages.
No. That's what I was about to say. This pedal is actually already in this pedal is really meant to control the Waza Air and the Waza headphones. So that's what. So you could do stuff with this. This is literally meant to be this guitar and this pedal and those different. This is literally meant for the person that sits at their house and plays in the headphones, and like a rich person, though. I mean, $2,200 on a guitar is a lot of money to do this. Okay, which is play with yourself.
Can I pause something? This is something that was pointed out to me today.
Sure,
and it's super obvious, but bears mentioning. If you're looking at this thing and you're thinking you should buy this, don't. Buy a $1,500 guitar and pick up an SY500, because then you're not tethered to their guitar selection. You can get a $1,500 guitar today with baked maple neck and all the accoutrements that you could possibly want. From like Warmoth, or really even some manufacturers are doing stuff like that now, and not whatever it is they're putting together as a guitar from, and who knows who they partnered with to build it. It's probably Cortec. It's probably a $2,200 Cortec guitar, and you could do that for sub $2,000. Get an SY500 and a guitar, and then you could plug all your guitars into your SY500.
You know what should be a lesson to Boss is don't put really nice stuff, electronics, into a piece of garbage guitar.
It's not.
Now, we don't
know
really
if it's a piece of garbage.
Right.
But
that's
what we were
shown
shown is super basic. And
right.
It's like, guys, this is not what people expect from the company that is Boss.
Right. Right. The company that just literally did one of the greatest things as far as this most recent fuzz pedal has just, I think, okay, I don't want to say piece of crap guitar. They've put, I'm
willing to admit this thing is probably going to play really well. And it's, but Jim, we talked about that. Maybe that should be our bonus content. That should be our bonus content. We'll talk about things playing well. And why that's a terrible evaluation characteristic today. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's just there's nothing exciting about this really. And that's why I'm like, I'm actually didn't kind of want to do this topic tonight, because I was sitting there thinking, there's nothing here to really talk about. Like, it's not even that interesting. But there is one angle that we've missed so far, and I think it's worth mentioning. Jim actually sort of already touched on it, which is that this thing already existed. It was called the Firebird X, which was a guitar with all the electronic features, the modeling and all that stuff that this one doesn't seem to have in large quantities. All that stuff was built into the guitar. You had to have this fancy foot controller. It was a dog expensive. It was like $4,000 plus.
Yep.
That's what this guitar is. I mean, essentially it's Boss saying, yeah, we can do that. And we can do it for, this, and it would just sacrifice some of these features because we don't need that. But I mean, just having needing to have their proprietary foot controller to go with your guitar to get the maximum functionality out of it, and it's still costing $2,200 before you do that, is just asinine to me. It doesn't make sense. It should come in the box for that amount of money. It should just come in the box, period. And it should be bulletproof, because the guitar will outlast whatever you put in the box. That's guaranteed, especially with digital equipment. And this is digital. So,
but don't worry, you get a gig bag.
Yeah, a gig bag for $2,200 flagship product. It is. It's Boss's flagship guitar, Jim. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
That's so. You know what? Right. So I'm gonna put a theory out there that this is going to start to put the nail in this topic.
Yep, because I got one more point before you put the nail in it.
All right, you give your point first, and I'll give my theory.
Yep. Electronics and getting wet, and I'm talking about if this is now. Maybe it's maybe the market is not the gigging musician. Maybe the market is the person
it's
sitting
clearly
at home.
not. It's all integrated with headphones and crap.
I'm sweating all over it because I've done the gigs already this year. Now that the whole thing is over, and I have sweated all over my guitars. They were soaked when I was done. My arms were soaked. My guitars were soaked. Hair was soaked. My shirts were soaked. And
you all took a shower together.
Yep. I was drinking copious amounts of water. And to have, I can't tell you how much sweat I took off that Strat the other day. To have that, and that wasn't really a huge gig. But anyway, to have that, am I really trusting all that water and sweat has got what in it? It's got salt and acids and salt water. Is this really going to live up to that? And then they're going to give me a gig bag? A gig bag?
Yeah.
Just saying.
So I have a theory as to why this exists.
Sure.
Think about Boss's forays into recent forays into other product lines. So they started with the Waza amp, right? And that was a miserable failure. So then they flipped the script, and I don't think they ever wanted Waza amp to take off, actually. But they flipped the script, And then they went and they made the Katana. And everybody was like, oh, the Katana is freaking amazing. Well, it's just a GG1000 with a speaker attached to it, which is fine. But people were buying those in droves. They're still buying them in droves. It's one of the most fervent communities I see in guitar forums. I have not been to a open mic or jam where a Katana has not made an appearance in probably the 3 years that I've been going regularly. I shouldn't say that. There was one small one where I was the only electric guitar player. But it is probably the most common amp in the world right now. And not that there's anything wrong with that, and not that the Katana is not a little powerful, little interesting thing that they've built. But it seems like they did that, and then they did Next Tone. I never see Next Tone amps, right? Like, because it's a price point thing. The Katana is popular because it hit a price point.
That's right.
Nobody's buying digital amps, between $350 and $600. Just not happening.
Right.
And so people are buying Katanas. Now you will see the occasional Katana artist, which is just a super loud Katana, basically. There are minor differences, different speaker. But overall, it's a Katana. Once you get beyond the Katana artist, then you get into the territory of Next Tone. And then so you're Next Tone, and then there's nothing else. So like they have Waza amp at the very top of the line, which is really expensive, and I think they're still doing those. That's all great, right? So like successful. We sold Katanas. We sold 1 billion of them. Probably infused Boss with so much capital. Now remember, Boss and Roland are the same company. So I'm sure even with the guitar amps on the Katana side taking off, it's probably 50% of their 50% of their profits when you compare it to what's going on in the keyboard side of the business and the other electronic merchandise that Roland produces. But so they're sitting there going, we got to make a product for these fervent Boss fans. It's like they realize they have fans now because Katana has taken off and there's a vibrant user community. It's like everybody wants a Boss guitar now to go with their Katana. They made a $2,200 guitar to plug into the Katana. That's what this is. That is honestly what this is. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it for anybody. Not going to sugarcoat it. It is a $2,200 guitar for you to plug into your Boss Katana, your $250 amplifier. And Jim, you know as well as I do, we've had these conversations about why do people spend $3,500 on a guitar to plug it into a, $50 practice amp? Like, what in the hell? It's always better. And I'm going to say this. This is fact. Okay. As far as our listeners are concerned, this is fact. If it is always better to take a inexpensive guitar and plug it into a great amp than to go the other way. That is fact at this point. Because you're going to get more out of it. Like, your tone is generated partially by the guitar and partially by the amp. And as we've said with the tone pyramid and all the other stuff, like speakers are a big thing and the amplifier is a big thing and your pedals are a big thing and your guitar is also a big thing. But if the guitar is playable, which leads us into our bonus content, if your guitar is playable, then just get a good amp. And in this case, Boss seems to have lost their mind and forgotten who they marketed the Katana to. And they don't seem to understand why the Katana is successful. The Katana is successful is because it's cheap. It is not successful. It's cheap and it's decent. It's not successful because it's expensive at all. None of their expensive offerings have sold well. None of them. That's why you don't see them everywhere. There's not a vibrant community supporting Next Tone right now. Not in the way that there is for Katana. I'm sure there are users out there. I think they should have been very, very, very careful before they stuck their foot in this water. And done a lot of market research. And honestly, like when I saw Boss is releasing a guitar, I got kind of excited because I was like, well, it's Boss and everything Boss does is really solid. But then I saw the specs and I'm like, this is like a Fender Stratocaster at $2,200. and it's got so much digital crap in it. I really wish Boss would have just said, no, we're gonna put out a guitar that's just a guitar, like a really good quality guitar in the vein of a Japanese like motif with, kind of think about, ESP, that kind of stuff, maybe Stratocaster shape, maybe a little bit more offset like they did. I would be actually, if this guitar were just like this, big maple neck, Goto 510, 2 humbuckers, quality pickups, and they could be Boss branded humbuckers and a decent headstock shape with a decent logo on it, because the black Boss logo on this guitar is just, oh my God. I'd buy it. I'd be like, hell yeah, I love Boss. I mean, I have a DS1 in the background for a reason. Because it's the only Boss pedal I have that's not on my board right now. I just don't understand why they did this. And I think we're going to see design changes before it comes to market. I think people are pre-ordering these, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make some running changes. But I also think that it may change very quickly, as in like next year we might get another one, and it might be a little bit more what audiences were expecting.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised to not see what's like a Bushido would be the next guitar they make, which goes with the Katana and is lower priced and makes sense and is economical and works real well. So as our bonus content, one of the conversations Jim and I had this week, and I think it's worthy and relevant to this conversation, is playability. And I asked Jim a very pointed question. I said, when was the last time you picked up a guitar and went, wow, this thing plays like shit?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a long time.
Now, I want to quantify some things as part of this conversation, because I did it in the original one, which is, and I'm not talking about sharp fret ends.
Right.
And I'm not talking, because that's fixable stuff, right? Like that's a setup thing. Yeah. Or you pay for the guy $10 to file down the fret ends. Guy or gal when they do your work. But or things that are setup related. Because when you pick up a guitar, you're going to set it up when you pick it up at the store. Like you just know it's optimal setup conditions. It just doesn't happen anymore, right, Jim? I mean, like pretty much every guitar in the market is totally playable. So I was kind of poking fun at reviewers, and I'm talking about magazines, I'm talking about YouTubers, I'm talking about your buddy down the street who says, man, this thing plays great. No shit. I mean, literally, that's my answer to you. Seriously? Of course it does. Of course it does. Our quality control in this industry right now is the best it's ever been. No one can ever take that away from the companies that have actually managed to make that a reality. CNC, just generally understanding what customers look for, making sure crap guitars don't get imported and sent out to stores, and even dealers going through the guitars when they hang them up on the rack and saying, this is a reject, throw it back. Okay.
Right.
It's just so much better these days, but it's not just that, right? So like when somebody reviews a guitar and they say, well, it plays great.
Right.
That's like, did you take it out of the box and set it up? Because the few guitars I have played where I was like, wow, this plays like dog shit. I think to myself, I bet it plays great with the setup. That's the next thought that pops into my mind, because very rarely are you going to pick a guitar up off the shelf at a store. And I'm sure you guys all do the typical guitar player thing and you go, look down the neck. I'm here to tell you that doesn't do a whole lot. That doesn't do a whole lot for you.
With a brand new guitar, I literally never do that.
There are reasons to do it, but when people do it and they're not trying to angle it towards the light, then you know that they don't know what they're doing, because that is supposed to be, you're supposed to get even light reflection across the top of the frets. And if it's any way variable or different, then you know you got something wrong with either fret height or neck height, neck either the neck wasn't filed properly or whatever. Back in the 70s, you could pick up a Fender off the rack and it might not have a smooth neck. Look down the neck and you see maybe one half of the neck would be like this,
right into the 90s, some of those necks were terrible.
Yeah. So the reason why I bring it up is because you just don't see that anymore. And if that was something another thing, reviewers don't get guitars that are messed up like that. Okay. So if you're going to check the quality on something, please check the quality on something when you're looking at it. But you're checking the quality on it doesn't mean that the guitar is necessarily bad or the whole line is bad or whatever. So they're reviewing an individual item.
Right. One out of many.
That was probably hand selected and sent.
Sometimes.
Well, I mean, YouTube reviewers may not be doing that, but in the case of magazines, I'm thinking about magazines. Damn well.
Damn well.
that was hand selected.
Let me tell you something. The first YouTubers that get their hands on this guitar we just talked about are going to be one of those two guitars, or maybe a couple more that get introduced into the wild. Those things will have been gone through many times, and possibly by the last reviewer.
Mm-hmm.
If Andertons get their hand on it, they're certainly not going to put it on the show without Pete getting a chance to tweak on it, or whoever, to make it look, feel, and sound right for their thing. They don't want a bad foot forward. We talked about that before. The
I
fact
wouldn't be
is,
surprised if Boss doesn't send their own technician out to set it up for whoever plays it.
Right. Now here's the thing, though. That getting away from the Boss, the Fireflies, and the Uris, or whatever the heck, the Earts. That's it, Earts. All the other ones been going around. I mean, there's a reason you and I haven't jumped on one. Why? And the fact is that I think there's this sudden culture, or maybe it's just prevalent online. Because I got to be honest with you, I don't know personally a single guitar player that's one of these glut. I have people that tell me I have a lot of guitars, and I have, when you look behind me, I have like 10. And they're like, man, you have a lot of guitars. And they only know of like 3 or 4. So
that's
the
none of
fact
their
is,
business.
Yeah. And well, it's not. I mean, but I'm just saying that I don't know if this glut of I've got to have all of these guitars is like a is it a real thing? Is it a real thing, or is it just something that there are people who get them because you see a lot of these for resale. I don't know. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm missing something in this whole thing. But when you get to this, like you were talking about, the setup quality thing, this you pick up a guitar and does it play like crap? Of course not. Of course not. Most of them don't. Most guitars, I can tell you right down to the Squire Bullets that showed up at the store, and I unboxed a lot of those things. I only worked like 2 or 3 days a week sometimes, but I'd unbox 10, 12 guitars a day. And when I was unboxing those guitars, I might have had to send back 3. I had one fall off a thing and break a headstock. So the truth of the matter is, and a lot of times it would be something that you'd look at it and then somebody go, "Hey, Jim, did you see that?" And it's like, there's a lifted fretboard or whatever. And I'm like, oh shit. It wasn't something I'd put on the floor yet, but I hung it on a hanger behind the counter, and I was getting ready to, look at some stuff. And then I would have to, your day gets running fast, and it's possible to get something to go by you, a scratch or a nick or something like that. But
you're generally not at Guitar Center. You're generally not receiving guitars though directly from the manufacturer. You're coming from their distribution facility, correct?
Right, from their distribution facility, which means that somebody has at least looked at the box. Literally, the boxes are still packaged from Japan.
Yeah, so that just tells you that the guitars that go into the boxes are quality.
That's right. So the fact is that I'm not saying that if you walked into a wherever or ordered from online from wherever a guitar and you got it in and it was a budget guitar and it played great out of the box. I don't find that surprising at all. I also don't find it surprising. I have to laugh at Phil McKnight. Not that. Look, I think Phil McKnight's a great guy. I really do. I think he's a swell guy. But here's the thing: there's one of these checks he does where he runs a nylon sock up and down the neck and goes, "Look, there's barely any fret ends." A little bit of sandpaper in 5 minutes in front of a YouTube, because these people are going to waste their time in front of YouTube editor. They're not playing that thing. I don't know if those things get 10 hours of playtime when somebody gets it though. And that's the thing. If you buy a guitar, you got a great setup, that's fine. But do you really, and this is really comes down to, and maybe this is what you're wondering, but this is what I would think. Do you really know what a great setup is? And how that feels to you? If what you have is 25 budget guitars behind you, do you really know how that feels to you? And I'm not saying you have to buy an expensive guitar to get a great setup, because believe me, I know that some expensive guitars come with shitty cut nuts. There's one right there. So it does happen. I'm just saying that I knew that nut was cut like shit because I knew what a shit nut cut felt like and sounded like. If I have to tune that thing 27 times and I put enough lube in there so that it's a pipeline. I mean, I know that the nut was cut wrong and it has to be reslotted. Or maybe it's a shit nut and I got to get a new one. But I'm just saying that I'll watch. Okay, I'll give you a prime example. I'll watch Trogley. He'll open, and again, I'm not slamming on Trogley. I don't know Trogley might be the greatest guy in the world. I just don't know him. Okay, so Trogley unboxes a guitar, and then he plays it, and half the time it's barely in tune. Okay, and it's either his playing or his inability to tune the guitar, or a little bit of both. But I'm just saying that, and not everyone, just a lot of them. I just watched him unbox a new Noventa Jazzmaster Triple P90s. Looks pretty cool. He played it. But his playing was barely in tune. And I'm thinking to myself, not only is he unaware of that, because I wouldn't put that on my channel.
But his watchers are probably unaware of it too.
But is that because the watchers watch it and they go, and they're used to hearing that out of tune playing? So
no, I just think that there's a low quality standard. People are watching it to look at the guitars. They're not watching it for Trogley playing. I mean, that's basically, they want to see him unbox stuff. I mean, his unboxing videos do well, so that's basically what it is. But
yeah. I'm just saying that he's not the only one. I've seen a lot of these guitar channels that they'll unbox a guitar and then they'll play it, and it sounds like, it's not like Anderton's when Honore can make here's latest dog shit guitar. It's literally made of dog shit, and he plays it and it sounds like like diamonds. I mean, that guy he's just a monster player and he's incredible. Okay, so he's the outlier over there. Most players are Trogley. Most players are the folks who don't actually play that great in tune. No,
I would say I do, but I would say another thing. Like, remember, you're comparing Andertons and like Pete Honore and his whole situation. By the way, incredible player,
yep.
and good guy too. But Pete Honore, when he does his thing, right? Like, those guitars they're playing on Andertons when they do their video, like they're playing the new Squire, they're never straight out of the box.
Oh, hell no. That's right. That's what I'm saying.
They're getting set up and everything right before they hand it to them. And if a guitar is set up properly, they're probably pretty good at the job that they've been assigned. In other words, this is a Strat and this is a Tele.
That's right.
And
that's right.
Because ultimately, the differences between, and I've been saying this for a while, but the differences between going from Squire to Fender to upper level Fender to Fender Custom Shop are they're strange differences. They're not what you think.
And we need to talk about that custom shop thing. But go ahead.
They're not what you think.
Right.
We actually kind of want to talk about the custom shop thing in another episode because I think that's a good topic for another episode.
For next week.
Yeah, we can do that. Because I know what you're talking about. So everybody thinks that like when you buy a Squire, you get because and people like Philip and I have kind of built this mythos, right? That you're buying, a guitar that has pop metal pickups and all that kind of stuff, and it's like and pop metal hardware, and that may be true, but it's still 80% to 90% of the way to being the same sort of sound same sort of sound properties and playability as its, south of the border counterpart or far, well, I guess that's what Japan, right? So they make guitars in Japan and then also, of course, here in the States and Indonesia. So all these guitars are really only they're 10% away from one another, right? Or maybe 15% away from one another, even tonally. I know people are like, I'm sure there are people screaming at their computer right now. That Squire pickup sounds like trash. But the reality is it still sounds like a Strat. It doesn't sound like a great Strat, but it sounds like a Strat. Right. And as you start going up the price tag, you get a few more percent here and there. That's why I've always used a percent model when I talk about this stuff on the show. And by the time you get to custom shop, we would consider custom shop probably to be 100%. There are other things that go on in the design. That's what we're going to talk about in another episode in terms of custom shop versus what you buy from American and how they set up the custom shop to be something that people actually want, because there are things that go on in that. That will be a topic for another episode. But my point is, we have this thing when somebody says it's a playable guitar, they're like, oh, this Firefly is playable. Great. I hope it is, because if it's not playable, what the hell are you going to do with it? Hang it on the wall?